بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه أما بعد. Continuing with the study of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, in which he talked about warning from transgression, dhulm, and from greed. قال اتقوا الظلم فإنه الظلم ظلمات يوم القيامة واتقوا الشح فإنه أهلك من قبلكم. واتقوا الشح. This is the part that we have been working, and be aware of the greed of stinginess. For stinginess and greed have destroyed the people before you. We'll continue, and we have mentioned the difference between al-bukhlu wa shuhu. Al-bukhlu wa shuhu, both of them in the translation in English will be saying greed or stinginess, but we said al-shuhu is more is extended to every aspect in one's life. He will not even give advice, he's filled with envy. But the bukhl, they say, it's more also limited to the wealth and to the money. However, the most, let's say, definition that give more clarification between the difference between them, in the shuh is something embedded in oneself. It becomes like a nature in the person. And the shuh, that greed, that stinginess, that selfishness. And the bukhl comes as an action to fulfill that, especially when it comes to the money. And a person can be in times stingy, greedy, but not to the point to have the shuh that embedded to be part of their character. Wal-'iyadhu billah. Those people, they become like literally melted, or their soul or the greed is mixed, or like subhanallah, melted with their character. It becomes part of them. Wal-'iyadhu billah. So the shuh, it's what led people to corruption and what led people to destruction, as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. قال فإن أهلك من كان قبلكم. He had destroyed the people before you, or those your predecessors. And then in another hadith قال حملهم على أن سفكوا دماءهم واستحلوا محارمهم. This greed had to push them, compel them, led them to slay, to kill, and to, subhanallah, to make halal for themselves what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the haram, which is to take their money with no right and so on. And that's all from the shuh. The author here, he's saying, given a further explanation, said when we say al-halaku, destruction, corruption, being ruined, is when we talk about here more likely to be in this worldly life. And what had these people to behave in such? قال الحامل لهم هو شحهم على حفظ المال وجمعه وازدياده وصيانته. Now, what greed dictate on this person to protect their wealth, to accumulate it, to increase it, protect it, more accumulation, and to increase it. وصيانته, and to safeguard it, to not be diminished by spending. So the biggest enemy for these greedy people is the spending. They don't spend. And we said the bukhl, it might be, having someone bakhil, greedy, to not give to other. But they really, let's say, spoil themselves. They buy whatever they want and everything. But the shahih, he's also being stingy on his own self. Stingy on themselves, and that is the disease. Is a disease worse than the bukhl. قالوا فضموا إليه مال الغير صيانة له. So for their wealth, what they're gonna do to increase it? They want to annex to it, get the money of others. And how to get the money of others? Only by oppression, by subhanallah, stealing, or by doing action of evil action. قال ولا يدرك مال الغير إلا بالجور والمعصية. So when someone wants to get the money of others, they're going to be oppressing them, stealing them, betraying them. So look how this shuh the love to increase the money led to kill, led to steal, led to betray because of the love of the shuh, because being very selfish. And you see it today, so it's natural. So what the Prophet ﷺ is describing for us is the effect of the disease of stinginess and greed. قال ويحتمل أن يراد به الأهلاك الأخروي. As the Prophet ﷺ said, he had destroyed or led to ruin the people before you. Also, it can be also understood as to be ruined into the akhirah. And it's a fact actually, ruined in this life and the hereafter by accumulating all these evil deeds. Where someone is going to go is going to just earning the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and whoever who earn the wrath of Allah wal-iyadhu billah, he will be cast into the hellfire wal-iyadhu billah. قال فإنه يتفرغ عما اقترفوه من ارتكاب هذه المظاهر والظاهر حمله على الأمرين. And he's saying, know that this ahadith, there is a lot of ahadith. There's a lot of ahadith of warning against the greed and al-bukhl, the shuh as a disease in the self, in the heart, and the bukhl as an action of withholding and not sharing and not giving. As for example, in the ayat al-Qur'ani, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala قال الذين يبخلون ويأمرون الناس بالبخل. One of the characteristics of the disbeliever who spreading the mischief, betraying and so on, they act in greediness, they are greedy, and also they enjoy people to be greedy. He said, you should not give to those people, they don't deserve it, and so on. الذين يقولون لا تنفقوا على من عند رسول الله. So from type of the munafiqeen, they say, do not give to those with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's action of hatred, but also of greed, because the greed it has not only its justification, only the love of the money, but also the hate of the other. They don't want to give them because they hate them. So, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described the munafiqeen, they are, awliya, allies to each other. قال يأمرون بالمنكر وينهون عن المعروف. They enjoy the evil and they prohibit people to do the good. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and they are so stingy. They hold and withhold. And this is the characteristic of people like the munafiqeen, far from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, وَمَنْ يَبْخَلْ فَإِنَّمَا يَبْخَلُ عَنْ نَفْسِهِ. The one who acts in stinginess and greed, he's actually doing it against his own self. He's doing it against his own self. Because when someone is greedy, he's ruining his heart by entertaining and sustaining such a disease to continue to devastate every aspect of goodness in the system of this person. That's why the greed, when it gets into a heart of a person, a soul of a person, it's really remove everything good from the heart of this person. So it's a disease that is like, destroy everything in one's soul. For this reason, in the other ayah, whoever who shield himself from his own greed, those are the successful. You see, because when you go against such greed, it's going to help you, a person, to be on the path of the purification, and like the person who is pleased to be in a state of the shuh. وقال سبحانه وتعالى ولا يحسبن الذين يبخلون بما آتاهم الله من فضله وخيرا لهم بل هو شر لهم. Do not let those who are stingy by acting greedily, by withholding, that they think this is it's good for them. Indeed, it's an evil and shar for them. So when they are withholding and everything, they think that they're doing a great action, but in reality, they're ruining and destroying themselves. In the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, قال ثلاث مهلكات. The three actions who lead to corruption and lead to ruin. The first thing is shuhun muta. Shuh, this greed, a greed obeyed, because there's a nature in the person to withhold. Withholding is a nature in us. But you correct this nature, you fight this nature with the guidance, with the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, would you trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He is the provider? Look, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, aqsam, and he swear by Allah that a wealth of per person will not diminish or decrease from sadaqah. So to give you the confidence, you know why this confidence? Because by nature people, they withhold, they don't want to give. But when it becomes shuhun muta', that greed becomes obeyed, someone submit to this greed, and this greed becomes like dictating and defining one's action and choice. And that's the problem, you know. So when someone has this inner nature that all of us, we have it, some of it, but you do not accept it, you try to fight it. The other, they fully submit to it. So this is muhlika. This is muhlika. It's going to lead to ruin, corruption, and destruction. The second one, قال وهوى متبع وهوى متبع, and a person is following his whims and desire, because one of the path for someone to be safe is to have his whims following the guidance of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yeah? And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, who is the follower of the guidance of my guidance, the one who make his hawa to submit to my guidance. الذي في معنى الحديث النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. Also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said, those who are going to have the abode of paradise, قال الذي نهى النفس عن الهوى. He prohibited the nafs to act and follow its hawa. And the hawa, when we say whims, in mainly is the desires, and the high hopes to get, you know, the worldly gain. The third one, قال وإعجاب كل ذي رأي برأيه وإعجاب كل ذي رأي برأيه. And this is people who have the seed of arrogance. And everyone, mean in this, what the means here, everyone who has opinion, he's really, you know, praising himself and holding in their opinion, because believing their opinion is the best opinion and should prevail on all the other opinions. So anyone who say an opinion, he will fight for it, justify it, and will not accept any other opinion. This person also, being such, is one of the elements that destroy the person. So you see, these are the diseases of the heart. And the last one, which really can reflect when someone is really defending and being, you know, pleased with his opinion and thinking and believing that his opinion is the best of the opinion. This is an action of arrogance indeed. This hadith أخرجه الطبراني في الأوسط, and the hadith has a ziyada, an part added in another riwayah, another narration, where the Prophet ﷺ saying, اللهم إني أعوذ بك من الهم والحزن وأعوذ بك من الجبن والبخل, and so on. The Prophet ﷺ, he's seeking the refuge with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from worrying and from sadness, and he's seeking also the refuge with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to shield him from cowardice and from greed. Because these are natural in the human being. However, they are in their raw nature. And with the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the help of Allah, you can stop them, you can, erase them, you can guide them to the way that it will benefit you in your path. And the Prophet ﷺ also called شر ما في الرجل شح هالع وجبن خالع, أخرجه البخاري. The worst that might exist in one's character is شح هالع, to have greed, but greed making person complainer, هالع, complainer. He's withholding, it does not give anything, and as soon that he's touched by any difficulty, you find this person screaming, complaining, swearing, and accusing others, because of them, this has happened to him, and so on. The worst that can exist as a character in a person, to have this type of shuhun hala, waliyadu billah. The second, qala wa jubnun khala, cowardice, that someone is scared always and it's, without foundation, because, fearing other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in many aspects, it does not have any meaning. Why? Because when someone fear Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives him the strength in his heart. We're not talking about the natural fear, someone fear from the darkness or fear from a beast. Those things are normal. But fearing things and to be coward, and cowardice will be like, running, for example, away from there's people even, example, when someone is in a position to defend his own family, defend his own honor, because of this cowardice, subhanAllah, they run away. They leave their family facing the problems and difficulties. So such cowardice, wal'iyadu billah, is not only disease in heart, but in the worst of a character for someone to have. The Prophet ﷺ gave it an adjective, a sifa, an attribute. قال خالع, جبن خالع. Al-khali'u makes someone like really scared. He cannot even breathe, running away out of cowardice, wal'iyadu billah. And this is what the Prophet ﷺ used to seek refuge with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to be shielded from such diseases in the heart. Now, the question that the author continued to explore, what is the greed that is bad? Because every one of us has this sense of greed, as we have said. And sometimes you withhold for a benefit, for a maslahah, for something good, not because you are greedy. You might not, a person who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give him, mashallah, a good wealth, but he will not give to his children, at certain age. Why? Because you want to have them to have the right tarbiyah. When they come to an age when they understand the meaning and the management of the money, he can give them. So this withholding is not out of greed, it's out of management. So when we're talking about, withholding, and it comes like in the sense of greed, because someone is saying, oh, he's not giving to his children, he's a greedy person. That's why he's saying, there is people, they might see a person as greedy, stingy, other they don't see him as stingy. وربما صدر فعل من إنسان فاختلف فيه الناس فتقول جماعة إنه بخيل ويقول آخرون ليس بخيل. Like the example I have mentioned, someone will do an action and people they say, oh look, he's this stingy person. The other person say, no, he's not stingy. His action is justified. The question then here, فماذا حد البخل الذي يوجب الهلاك? Therefore, what is the definition of the stinginess that really lead a person to destruction, lead a person to be blamed because what he's committing is something evil and something bad. So here he given us the answer, rahimahullah ta'ala. This is also another question. ما حد البذل الذي يستحق به العبد صفة السخاوة وثوابها? Also, what is the definition or the scope of giving, of sharing? That when a person will do it will be, let's say, describe it or called or known by sakhawa, by being generous person, and he will get the reward of it. So here to put it in the way of the Sharia. So let's start with as-sakhiyu, the generous person, to understand the opposite of it, the greed. So he who is a sakhi. قال السخي هو الذي يؤدي ما وجب عليه. So a sakhi, the generous person, because there is generosity and there is waste. Because someone who's spending too much, he becomes mubaddir. So the sakhi is the one who gives and share and give what is obligatory on him or on her to give. The obligation here are two categories. There's wajib al-shar'i, and there's the other wajib al-muru'ati wal-'ad. So wajib al-shara' is the obligation related to the commands of Allah, to the sharia, to the jurisprudence of Islam. The second one is wajib by obligation of muru'ah, which is of the honoring of the person, as being honored, to be respected, to act as someone responsible in the society. You say the rujula, the manhood, the muru'ah, it's like the action or the aspect to be respected, to be helpful, to be kind, to be nice. That's from the muru'ah. from the muru'ah, for example, to see a woman who's been mistreated, to intervene and to stop that. That's from the muru'ah, to help when things need when someone, or to intervene when someone needed to intervene. So these are the two aspects of wujub. If you do such a thing, he becomes, in the sight of the Sharia, someone who is a generous person, sakhiyun. So wajib al-shara. When it comes to the wajib of the shara, هو ما فرضه الله تعالى من الزكاة والنفقات لمن يجب عليه إنفاقه وغير ذلك. The obligation is coming to the Sharia in what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made obligated for everyone to pay from the zakat. If you have a zakat to pay, you have to pay it. And then to take care of everyone that is under your charge, your children, your spouse, maybe your parents, and to do that. And to do that with tibi qalb. To do that with tibi qalb. You do it with a heart satisfied. That is the sahi. Okay? That is the sahi. You pay what is obligatory, but you don't pay it in a way, for example, قال ولا تيمموا الخبيث منه تنفقون. People, when they come, some people munafiqun, when it came to time of the zakat, they get from their crop the worst of it. The thing that maybe you need to be going to be thrown in the garbage, that's what they collected and they give it as a zakat. So this is a person who fulfilled the obligation, but he's stingy. Why? Because he's not, given what it needs to be given. Because those things, people, they're not going to use it. If you give it to a poor person, he's going to dump it into the garbage. The type of al-ada, wajib al-ada, wal-muru'ah, so that's the part of the obligatory part, and to take care of their children and everything, and that's from the obligation. واجب العادة والمروءة فإن منع واحد منهما وفاء وبخيل. العادة والمروءة, it's like when someone, for example, begging and in a need, to give to this person. Someone come to ask you, this person, and ask for help. This is ada, from the habit, from the custom, from one's, righteousness, from one's, way of living as a Muslim. You are entitled to help other people because you seek the reward and the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it becomes wajib on you. And look, in the companion of the Ansar, when the Prophet ﷺ asked from the Ansar, who will, have this person as a guest? And one of the Ansar, he volunteered, and they offer him their dinner even though they do not have. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala قال ويؤثرون على أنفسهم ولو كان بهم خصاص. They preferred other on themselves, despite the fact they are in need. Khasasa, it's like poverty, and they are in need. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala complimenting them. And He said, وَمَنْ يُوقَ شُحَّ نَفْسَهُ, and whoever will shield himself from this stinginess and greed will be successful. So what is the characteristic or the attribute of being sahi is to do such a thing. To be a person, you pay your zakat, you take care of everyone that is under your charge with heart satisfied. You're not always complaining and make it difficult on other people. Anyone who's been given, a sadaqah or a help, or even from the people who's taking care of them, you should not do this. Next time I'm going to reduce it, and so on. I'm going to obligate on you to pay the rent. Even people, they do it for their kids. That's a sense of stinginess, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala قال لا تبطلوا صدقاتكم بالمن والأذى. Do not annul and void your sadaqah by man. Al-mannu is like to show that you're making favor on a person. Wal-adha, to bother them, to hurt them. You give them and you make them feel bad. Why? Because they feel like, being given by you. People sometimes, for example, they give to someone, he said, you are a strong person, you should go work, but here, this is fidar on your throat. That sadaqah is void, is not accepted. Actually, that person is committing a sin. So, as-sakhiyu is the one who fulfilled the obligation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in giving and in helping as the custom required, because those are the sense of the muru'ah, with tibi qalbin, with heart that is pleased, satisfied. That is the generous person. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us all generous bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. We'll study next time the opposite, which is the bakhil, to shield ourselves from such a thing. And the continuation of this hadith in the study will be on Tuesday, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Jazakumullahu khairan wa